UFC 302 is less than 2 weeks away, and I'm here to give you every single one of my early picks for the entire card, from the first fight of the night all the way to the main event. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's no UFC card this Saturday. In fact, there's literally nothing going on in the world of combat sports for the weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend in the US, and it just seems like everyone's taking the weekend off. We're not doing that here. We're already looking at the pay-per-view card coming up on June 1st. A pretty decent card overall. Main event is solid. Co-main event is very solid, but other than that, some solid matchups, but nothing that really jumps off the board too crazy. They had to add Kevin Holland versus Oleksiejczuk kind of last minute to just juice up the main card just a bit. Everyone wants to see Kevin Holland fight. They throw him on there. He's always ready to go. So that was a good addition. But overall, it's a pay-per-view card that has a good headliner, some decent fights. It's decent. It's nothing crazy. We had UFC 300, so we kind of got to expect that. But let's get into it. Once again, these are early picks, so these can be adjusted. I haven't watched a ton of film on them, but if you watch the UFC, you know these types of fighters. You know what their capabilities are, and you can kind of give an early pick based on those leans. So if you want to watch the actual in-depth breakdown, it's on the Double Leg YouTube channel. I do that with my boy, the Parlay MMA, every single week. We'll drop that next week on Tuesday. We're getting this out a little bit early because I know everyone's going to be wanting to know what's going on with this UFC 302 card, and I'm here to tell you. First fight of the night. Not even going to try to say that. I don't even know where to start. Tumendemberel versus Andre Lima. Andre Lima coming off a win where he got bit and a fight that was fairly competitive. Now, I think Andre Lima is pretty damn good. Both fighters are still undefeated. This guy from Mongolia had 2 fights on the road to the UFC. He won both of them. The first one was a split decision, pretty close fight. And the second one, he got a first-round submission. This guy, we'll just call him Naya. This guy, Naya, he's a brawler on the feet who will force scrambles on the ground. He's not a very good wrestler, but he threatens with submissions right away. Once the fight hits the ground, he's going to threaten a submission. Uses that to scramble, whether to get back up to his feet or sink in the submission for the win. But on the feet, he's pretty damn wild. Andre Lima, much more technical, very powerful with his kicks, with his hands. He throws a lot of heat on everything he throws. And in his first fight in the UFC, he was getting taken down a bunch, but he found his way up to his feet. So it's good to look at least to see him getting taken down and he can get back up to his feet. I don't really think this Naya guy is going to want to take him down because it's not really his strong suit. Does have a good jiu-jitsu game, a dangerous jiu-jitsu game, but I don't really see him going in there looking to wrestle the guy unless it's to get him down and sub him right away, which Andre Lima, I think, should be able to weather. And I think with how crazy Naya is on the feet, Andre Lima is just way more technical. I think he should be able to find a knockout within the first couple of rounds. So I'm going with Andre Lima. Up the card, Eileen Perez is going to be doing her famous twerk show on June 1st because she's taking on Jocelyn Edwards. And if you don't know, Jocelyn Edwards and Eileen Perez have got some beef. Apparently, this is going to be a rematch because they've already fought at the UFC PI. Eileen Perez and Jocelyn Edwards got into it. Jocelyn Edwards is a woman who may like to run her mouth. Eileen Perez is definitely a woman who likes to run her mouth, but in the cage, she likes to back it up. She is a very strong wrestler who has decent stand-up but is aggressive. Jocelyn Edwards has really shown to be a point fighter from the outside. And for some reason in her last fight, she went to her wrestling game. Not sure why, because it cost her a win in a very winnable fight against Nora Cornoli. She took a loss. Arguable that she could have won that fight, but that's karma. Because the fight before that, she shouldn't have won against Ivana Petrovic. Or not Ivana Petrovic. The other, what's her name? I don't know her name. She's very forgettable. Luna. I don't know it. I don't know her name. She trains at Conor McGregor's gym. But she should have won that fight. And Jocelyn Edwards did get the win, and it was pretty much a robbery. She gets robbed her next fight. That's how it goes. I don't see how she has success in this one unless Eileen Perez gasses out. I think Eileen's wrestling is going to be too much here. She should be able to get her to the ground, do some ground and pound there, and Jocelyn Edwards is going to be in a world of trouble. Give me Eileen Perez and give me the famous twerk show after. Maybe her coaches will join her, and it'll be a scene, because why not? Start the early prelims with a little twerk action. Mickey Gall, Basil Hafez. We all know Basil Hafez for giving Jack Della one hell of a fight. Well, they're see something in Basil Hafez because they're giving him Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall hasn't fought since he got knocked out by Mike Malott. Now, Mickey Gall is a guy that's been in the UFC forever. The man that defeated CM Punk. The man that defeated Mike Jackson. And ever since then, he's been kind of up and down. This guy is a submission specialist. He wants to get you to the ground, on the feet. He doesn't have much to offer as far as power goes. Basil Hafez has a much better power on the feet, but he is also a very good grappler himself and a strong wrestler. I wouldn't say the jiu-jitsu is as good as Mickey Gall, but he is very strong in positions on the ground. He made Jack Della work for a lot of stuff, but you also have to take into account Jack Della was going for a lot of those submissions when he was getting taken down, and Mickey Gall might be able to snatch those up that Jack Della was not. So, it is a dangerous fight for Basil because his best base is getting guys to the ground and working them there. And Mickey Gall might be comfortable off his back playing the jiu-jitsu game. But I can't take a guy that's really only going to win fights based on jiu-jitsu. And Mickey Gall is pretty much that. And I'll take Basil Hafez for the early pick. And I would probably say he gets it done by decision. Maybe by knockout on the feet because Mickey Gall, not the most durable guy. Not the best stand-up. Basil swings hard, but he's not very technical. Maybe you could catch him, but I'll take him by decision. Nico Price, Alex Morono. Nico Price, I believe, has like 7 or 8 kids, and I think that's really the only reason that he is still fighting. Because if you've watched this guy fight lately, it ain't looking good, my guy. He's rocking the knee sleeves. He's getting knocked out by a 50-year-old Robbie Lawler in 30 seconds in a fight where he was a favorite. He's a good overall fighter. But at this point in his career, he doesn't have much left to give. Alex Morono, never really been a guy that's super dangerous on the feet. He just went to a close fight with an old guy in Court McGee who was coming off 2 knockout losses. That's the same case here against Nico Price. Back-to-back knockout losses. But I think Alex Morono should be able to get this one done. The durability edge is on the Morono side, as bad as that is to say. It is. Technically, Morono is sound. His jiu-jitsu game is very good. I could maybe even see an Alex Morono sub in this spot if Nico is not feeling the stand-up. If he's feeling slow and he shoots a sloppy takedown, Morono loves to go for that ghillie. I think Morono is the side here. I'll take him for the pick. Moving along. Phil Rowe versus Jake Matthews. Interesting matchup. And this is one I don't have a very solid lean on because Phil Rowe always seems to disappoint me every time he goes out there. But he's a very solid fighter. He's a long fighter with decent stand-up. Maybe not the most aggressive stand-up. Decent jiu-jitsu as well. The wrestling leaves a little bit to be desired. I think if he used his wrestling more to get the fight to the ground and then worked his jiu-jitsu, he would have more success because he's got those long limbs. He can snatch up a lot on the ground. But Jake Matthews is kind of one of these wild cards. You never really know what you're going to get from Jake Matthews on any given night. And the fact is, Jake Matthews just hasn't really looked good as of late, and the only fight that he really looked good in was against Andre Fialho. Andre Fialho, I think, is on a 5-fight knockout losing streak. He got cut from the UFC, and just recently, he appeared on some regional promotion, and he got knocked out there. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Jake Matthews. Because after that Fialho win, he lost to Semmelsberger. He lost to Michael Morales. Now, Semmelsberger lost. He was a big favorite in that one. And then the Morales fight, he was a dog in that one, but he just really never had a shot. He did pick up a win against Darius Flowers, but Darius Flowers was up a weight class on short notice. And Jake looked good, but that's a spot where he should look good. You know, he's taking on a guy in Phil Rowe that's not Darius Flowers. He's not Michael Morales, but he's not Darius Flowers. I'm kind of leaning Phil Rowe in this spot. But if the best version of Jake Matthews shows up on June 1st, he could get a win here. The cardio of Phil Rowe leaves a lot to be desired. It's a toss-up to me. I'll take Phil Rowe for the pick, the early pick, but we don't have the odds here, but I would probably say it's a dog or pass. If you're a betting man, it's a dog or pass. Moving along, Grant Dawson, Joe Solecki. Grant Dawson, first fight back after he got knocked out by Bobby Green from a jab. And they give him Joe Solecki, who just got knocked out by Drakkar Klose from getting slammed. He was going for the armbar, and then he got slammed. He got knocked out. This is a grappler versus grappler matchup. Joe Solecki is all grappling. Grant Dawson, probably one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division, I would say. Best pure grapplers. And it's not even just grappling, just wrestling in general. Very solid wrestling and very good top control once he gets you there. He's going to flow through positions, maybe even take your back. And if he takes your back, it could be wraps. Joe Solecki, I don't think will be completely outclassed in the grappling game. But on the feet, the advantage goes to Grant Dawson. Joe Solecki really has no hands. Joe Solecki, he's just kind of in these fights where he's fighting down to the competition. He's had a couple layups, like he beat Carl Deaton. Carl Deaton is so bad. He beat him, but then he gets a win over like Alex De Silva in a fight that he should have won a little bit clearer. Grant Dawson, I think it's a bounce-back win here. He is the favorite. You see the odds there, minus 250. I think it's a bounce-back spot for him. He gets a win, and he can keep moving up in the lightweight division. Brings us to the featured prelim. Cesar Almeida, Roman Kopylov. Love this fight. Love this fight because it's a great matchup. Two amazing kickboxers. Cesar Almeida was the guy that fought Alex Pereira 3 times, I believe, beat him once. And he's now 1-0, 2-0 in the UFC? 1-0? I think he's 1-0. 1-0 in the UFC. He just got a win over Dylan Budka in his debut as an underdog. I picked him to win that fight. He gets it done by knockout. And then he had the win on the Contender Series, which was shocking as well. He's 36. So he's 36 coming into the UFC. He does have a lot of combat sports experience that he can lean on, but he's still pretty green as far as it goes with MMA. Kopylov is, I don't really assume he's going to come in here looking to shoot takedowns, but it is a path that he could go to. It seems like he's been working a lot on his wrestling, more so defensively because that's where he's been losing fights. He's getting taken down. But he's an amazing kickboxer on the feet, a southpaw kickboxer at that, so it's southpaw versus orthodox. Kopylov's he loves to rip those body kicks and then bring it up to the head. His hands are sharp. He's long. I tend to lean Kopylov here just because of the MMA experience, the experience in the UFC, and I think in a striker's matchup, Kopylov is right there with a lot of guys. So I'm going to go with Kopylov for the pick here. Cesar Almeida being 36, maybe he could come in here and just keep the train rolling, keep the hype going, and pick up a win over a very good guy. But I don't know that I could take him for a pick. So I'm going to go with Kopylov, and the Russian Chase Hooper picks up another win, maybe by knockout, maybe by submission. If he's training with Chase Hooper, maybe that is. Brings us to the main card. Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Now, I picked dos Santos to beat Rinat Fakhretdinov, and everyone was calling me crazy. I think he was like a plus 250, plus 280 underdog, something like that, because the Rinat Fakhretdinov train was off the rails. The fact is, Rinat Fakhretdinov has sloppy striking, but it is powerful, and then he has great wrestling game. Now, Zaleski has been very durable throughout his career, and he has great Muay Thai, great kicks, and very fast hands. So that was a fight that I thought he had a great chance to win. It ultimately goes to a draw, because I think Zaleski had a 10-8 in the third or the second. There was a 10-8 in there. That's why it was a draw. But either way, it was a draw. He comes in here fighting Randy Brown, who Randy Brown was cracking on the door of the rankings. And I think this could be a decent spot for him because Randy Brown loves to use that jab, stay at range. He's going to be bigger than most of these welterweights as far as height goes. I mean, he's still kind of a twig as far as, his legs and his arms go. But he did just pick up a knockout win over Muslim Salikov. Salikov is old. Solecki is old himself, but he seems to be a little bit more durable than a Salikov at that age. So I think this fight probably stays standing. I don't think Dos Santos is really going to look to take the fight to the ground. If Dos Santos turns this into a brawl, he's got a great chance to win. And Randy Brown doesn't really seem to be like smoking his competition. Like, other than the Salikov KO, he's in a lot of these kind of greasy, close fights that it doesn't seem like he should be in. He's winning these fights by decision, and they're usually 29-28, and it's a round where it almost looks like he takes the round off. Like the Wellington Turman fight, you should be whooping up on Wellington Turman. It was a 29-28, arguable that he could have lost. So, red flags there for Randy Brown. But I think in this spot, a striker's battle, I think he should be able to win it unless he gets caught with something. His only loss in a long time is Jack Della. Jack Della looks like a buzzsaw at 170. So I'll go with Randy Brown for the pick. Zaleski needs to make it a dogfight, though, to make it close. Moving on. Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov. Is this a bounce back spot for Jailton Almeida? I think so. Because Romanov has good wrestling himself, but it's all offensive wrestling, and he's shown at the slightest bit of adversity, this man will crumble. He will crumble to the ground, and he will give up. That's exactly what he did against Volkov. It's pretty much what he did against Tybura. Those are his two losses. Tybura, he just completely gassed in that fight and then had nothing left to give. It was at elevation, so you could give him a little bit of a pass. And then that Volkov fight, he got kicked in the gut, and he was just like, I'm done. I'm out of here. So, don't really love the heart on Alexander Romanov, but the same could be said about Jailton Almeida, because last fight against Curtis Blades, he's ragdolling him in the first round, and then round two, shoots a takedown. He takes a couple shots to the head, doesn't do anything about it, and then just crumbles to the ground and he loses. So, I don't see this one as a dogfight. Can't really expect that. It's probably going to be a grappling match. But if Romanov can stop the wrestling of Almeida, Romanov might have the better hands. And as bad as that is to say, because Romanov does not have good hands. They have improved. They've improved over the years. His last fight against Blagoy Ivanov, he actually won that by striking with him, which is crazy because Blagoy's not a bad striker, but he's just slow. Really just has a left hand down the pipe. Romanov just kind of stayed at range and won it that way. So, a weird fight there. Romanov, this is one you need to watch weigh-ins, because if Romanov comes in here with long hair, maybe with a beard, and he looks out of shape, lay the house on Jailton Almeida, because Romanov has shown that it seems like at some point throughout his camp, he just gave up and he's in his mom's basement and he's playing video games, eating Cheetos all day. If he does that, he's going to lose. But if he doesn't, and he has a good camp, he's got a good chance to win this because he has better ground and pound than Jailton Almeida. He has maybe better stand-up than Jailton Almeida. But Jailton Almeida has one thing, and that's get you to the ground and wet blanket you. And he does it very well. Now, against Curtis Blades, it's going to be tougher to do. But against Alexander Romanov, lower level heavyweight, it might be a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to take Jailton Almeida. The odds on the screen seem a little bit crazy, though. Minus 290 on Jailton Almeida. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't think that's accurate. I feel like Jailton's more like minus 180 or something like that. So it might not be accurate. But either way, I'll take Almeida for the pick. Kevin Holland, Michal Oleksiejczuk. Now, I've been on record somewhat to say that Kevin Holland, kind of one of the more overrated fighters in the UFC. If you look at his wins, he's really just beating up on old guys. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Tim Means, Alex Oliveira. Like, anytime he gets a guy that's kind of in their prime or maybe just good at that point in their career, he loses. You know, like a Michael Venom Page. I thought that was a bad matchup for Kevin Holland because it's very tough to touch Michael Venom Page. And I picked Michael Venom Page to win that. He won it. And then you look at his other fights like Jack Della. It was a very disappointing performance. It looked like Kevin Holland really wasn't throwing anything with steam on it. But Kevin Holland's a guy that the UFC loves. And a guy that the UFC can rely on. And it seems like they're bringing him in here to maybe pick up a win against Oleksiejczuk. Because Oleksiejczuk has shown various weaknesses in his game. Number one is cardio, which Kevin Holland has good cardio. Number two, submission defense. So if you take him down, it's very easy to submit. And number three, he doesn't really mix up his weapons. It's an overhand left. That's pretty much all he's got. He doesn't really throw a lot of kicks. He's just winging an overhand left. And Kevin Holland should be ready for the overhand left. And pretty much everywhere in this fight, I think Kevin Holland can beat him. And the best thing about Kevin Holland, I think, or at least the best asset that Kevin Holland has had, so damn durable, man. So durable. The way that this guy could take a punch, like those punches that MVP was hitting him with, even those spinning back elbows that he took, dude's got a chin on him. And if you got a chin against Michał Oleksiejczuk, I think it's just a matter of time before he starts to slow down and you can crack him with shots, get him to the ground, and sub him. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland here. I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. Going back up to middleweight too, maybe a little bit faster than Oleksiejczuk, so that could help him getting in and out. He's long, so he's not going to be undersized at middleweight. I think it's a good spot for Kevin Holland. I'll take him. Co-main event, Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. Now, Paulo Costa is another guy that I think has been massively overrated. Like, he has no business being in there with Sean Strickland at this point because he just lost to the number 3 contender, Robert Whittaker. So how do you lose to the number 3 contender and then get to fight the number 1 contender? Does not make sense as far as rankings go, but it does make sense for the UFC because Paulo Costa is a draw and Sean Strickland is also a draw. So you give 2 draws on both sides. It's a good fight that you can make as a co-main event. And in all reality, it might turn out to be, a good 5-round scrap. Paulo Costa going to be the more explosive guy, the more powerful guy. But Sean Strickland, very durable, very hard to hit, and has great cardio, great pressure. And I see this fight going one way. Either Paulo Costa can get him out of there early, find a shot like Alex Pereira did, or Sean Strickland is able to take over as the fight moves on. Paulo Costa starts to slow down. Those fast twitch muscles aren't as fast. Sean Strickland gets to land that jab, move downhill, and Paulo Costa gets drowned with the pressure from Sean Strickland. And I lean towards the second. Sean Strickland is going to be my pick to win this fight. I either see a late stoppage, round 4 or 5, or Sean Strickland by decision. I just don't see Paulo Costa going in there and being able to land over and over and over again on Sean Strickland. He's too good defensively, and he manages his cardio way too well to let Paulo Costa be in the fight later in the round. So I'm going with Sean Strickland in this one. He will be my pick. That brings us to the main event. Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev. Does Dustin Poirier have one magical guillotine left in him? Because he hasn't had many in his career. I don't even know if he has a guillotine win in his professional MMA career. I don't think he does in the UFC. But there's one thing you can count on. If Islam Makhachev shooting a double leg takedown, Dustin Poirier will be looking for that neck. Now, the reality of it is, there's no way that Islam Makhachev is getting guillotined by Dustin Poirier. He's not going to tap. He's not going to go out cold. All that's going to do is allow Islam to pick him up, put him on his butt, and end up in a better position. In nowhere in UFC history have you seen a guy shoot a takedown, the other guy go for a guillotine, and finish a defensive guillotine to win the title. Never. Never in UFC history. If you can name one, I would love to hear it because I've never seen it. Now, a lot of people will say John Jones versus Cyril Gane, way different. Way different. John Jones got him to the ground, got in position on top of him, and then looked for the guillotine. It was an offensive submission. This would be a defensive submission. It's just not going to happen. But I will say, Dustin Poirier does have a chance to knock out Islam Makhachev. This is southpaw versus southpaw. Dustin Poirier, maybe one of the best southpaw strikers in the history of the UFC. Now, Islam Makhachev is a damn good striker. I don't want any slander on Islam Makhachev striking because it is very, very good. But it is not super dangerous. And I know what you're going to say. That Volk KO. Volk took that shit on short notice. Okay. And it was very well set up from Islam. But I don't see Islam landing a head kick KO on Dustin Poirier. I know Gaethje did. But if Islam has any type of IQ in this fight, he knows the path of least resistance is to get Dustin to the ground, grind on him, and eventually he'll fade. And I would trust that the champion, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, has the IQ to do that. I could see maybe the first round being a feeling out period where Islam's throwing some kicks, not really letting the hands go, just kind of feeling them out, and Dustin's kind of the same way. But I think eventually Islam will come to his senses, get him to the ground, try to wear on him, and look for some type of late round submission, whether it's 3, 4, or 5. That's where Dustin Poirier has tend to fade. Later in the fight when, the boxing and the hands might not be as fast, when he's been had to grind out with the wrestling game for a little bit, then he gives up those spots where Islam can look to capitalize with a submission. So Islam will be the pick, but everyone and their mother is going to be rooting for a Dustin Poirier win. I will for sure, because Dustin Poirier is a legend of the sport. This might be his last fight if he loses. So everyone would love to see him win because we want to see him fight again. If he wins the title, I don't think he's going to retire with the title. So we want to see him back. We want to win. We want him to win so that he keeps fighting. But everyone wants him to win. I will be rooting for him to win. I would love to see Dustin Poirier knock him out. And there is a good chance because the last guy that knocked out Islam Makhachev was a check right hook when Islam Makhachev missed on an overhand left, and Dustin Poirier has a very damn good check right hook. So it is possible, but I'm here to give real, legitimate picks, and I have to go with Islam Makhachev. So those are the picks for UFC 302. I appreciate you for watching. As I said before, these are early picks without a lot of tape study done on them. This is, almost less than 2 weeks, but like 2 weeks, less than, we'll just call it a week and 4 or 5 days before the fight. So usually do my tape study Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Monday, and then Monday we record our official show. So tune into that. The double leg on YouTube will be posted there for the entire full card breakdown with my boy, The Parlay, at HI Picks on the medias. And of course, if you want my bets for every single UFC card, join the Homo Fight Picks premium membership. The link is down in the description. Appreciate y'all for watching. Till next time, HI Picks.